you can actually dive him under the turret almost.
And what a difference a couple of years makes. Top Rengar to being the best cautious top laner.
All right, so Annie and Callista, the first bans to hit the board. There is the Azir against Frozen. GBM really not going to be early picking that champion. Annie falls by the wayside, a more common ban in Korea these days. Now, the Evelynn, interestingly enough, against Chaser. Definitely not one of Chaser's more heavily prioritized picks when we compare it to something like Echo or Nidalee or even Rek'Sai's most played champion.
And Jin Air is actually the team that's banning hard engage. Usually we see the likes of the hard engage picked against them because, of course, they love to go these poke comps. They love the Nidalee jungle. That hasn't been target banned this series.
But we see the Braum ban coming in, and that means quite possibly that the Runeglaive Ezreal is going to be coming through in some sort of capacity. If I was I might be thinking about taking that Ezreal right now because Jin Air cannot respond with, I mean, they can respond with the Yasuo. That's about what they've got right now as an effective way to block a lot of those Runeglaive Ezreal spells. Alistar already locked in, taking that pick away from Ignar.
GBM's answer to Frozen's Cassiopeia was the Yasuo, you know, many months back when we saw this reverse matchup. Sweet, he hasn't played since the 3rd of June for this Jin Air team. That was when it was Bard bans in full effect. Funnily enough, the only other Bard player we'd really think about is Madlife, who was actually getting Bard bans recently. So, look, it's a lot of talk about this champion. With Alistar locked in, we're not going to see it this game, but there's a hope it comes out as this series goes on.
Indeed. So, the Victor looks like it will be prioritized here by Jin Air. Of course, Jin Air really likes to blind pick that champion, as do a few other teams, but Jin Air has a very special priority on the Victor. And no, it's not going to be the Kennen, I don't think. And now, just waiting for these picks to be locked in. Pretty standard, Kog'Maw and Gragas. What will Pilot be playing here?
It's crazy to think that blind picking Kog'Maw in the first round on red side is now the new standard. But again, the meta evolving away from the likes of the Shyvana top, the likes of just the tank Cinderhulk champions with the Cinderhulk enchant being nerfed so heavily. Getting to the backline's hard. Only Maokai really presents himself as a reliable backline threat. It's one of the reasons why we see Maokai Kog'Maw as a very common same round of the draft pick. Gragas was the pickup though over the Maokai, and now Jin Air do have someone to lock down. Speaking of backline lockdown, Twisted Fate for GBM.
And this makes a lot of sense, right? Because they have enough engage, they have the Maokai to deal with a possible Ezreal pick, even though there's some good peel from the Janna. So this is going to be a little bit more of a difficult game to actually play a Runeglaive Ezreal in if you are Incredible Miracle. They could go for something a little bit more standard, but they kind of lack some good engage. They have a Gragas ult to work with. Also, I want to point out that GBM is using Teleport right now with the Twisted Fate. This is something that Pawn has been doing for EDG in the LPL. It's very interesting. It's great against Runeglaive Ez, and I'll get down to brass tacks on that in a minute if we actually see it locked in.
It's definitely a flexible option. You'd think without the gold, without the ghost, you lose out on those multiple gold cards. Without the ignite, you lose out on gank pressure. But it is another flexible choice. And if Twisted Fate does anything, it's tailor his builds, tailor his summoner spells towards the type of game and the type of comp that a team's trying to run.
Yeah, we'll see if GBM sticks with the TP. Obviously, what this does is you primarily use the TP to get back to mid lane so that you can push up the wave and give yourself more opportunities to ult into the side lanes. He's got some great choices here. He's got hard CC in both of his side lanes. So basically, you're just trying to abuse the other mid laners' recall timings to just have more presence in the mid lane while you don't lose farm and experience and maximize the amount of time that you can go for these ganks. Now, obviously, the ganks are riskier in that regard because without the ghost, maybe you don't actually secure that kill. But when you have a Maokai and you have an Alistar, you're probably going to get some kills even with this just running that TP.
And Maokai and Italy have excellent synergy when you're talking about ganking top. You targeted route into the max range spears, massive burst damage. One thing I want to touch on with that teleport, think about the fact that the one thing Runeglaive Ezreal can do is chunk out low health members. The base stats of Twisted Fate are disgustingly low. So even after the very early laning phase, the ability to instantly return mid, ensure that your turret stays up, could prove invaluable.
Yeah, and I think it's good that IM decided to go for the Victor instead of the Runeglaive Ez here, because that pressure from TF is huge against a Runeglaive Ezreal. And so at least they have a little bit better early wave clear. Won't be quite so easy for GBM to get some of these ults off. Well, guys, we are going to be going into game one right now. IM versus Janair.
Massive cheers from the IM audience as we start this game.
IM fans, you know, you have to go through a lot over the years to be an Incredible Miracle fan. Rare playoff appearances for this team, constantly trying to battle their way back into the upper echelons, being the gatekeeper, really, for the amateur scene.
So where would you, if you had to compare, say, to an NA and EU LCS team, who would be IM in these other regions? Teams that are kind of always trying to aspire towards those playoff spots, but honestly, never really even impacting playoffs, let alone threatening the top spots.
I don't know. There's not. I don't think there is really
Dignitas?
Yeah, maybe Dignitas, but Dignitas has been in more playoffs.
True.
So I don't know if there is a really apt comparison.
But they've just been always around and always relevant, kind of maybe an overstatement, but always a contender, specifically in the preseason, and then falling away 3-4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I am starting to stack on the bottom side here. Looks like they will be going for a little bit of a delayed 5-man invade.
Sapling invade. You feel like they're kind of contesting the saplings with this invade, just trying to see what's happening on the bottom side of the jungle. Often we see multiple different flexible starts onto the Wraiths, whether it's saplings to allow GBM to pick up the first load. You know, maybe you can just take the wild cards and pick up some experience that way. Maokai picking up the selfish, small sapling experience. Either way, the contention comes through. But it looks like, at least, they're going to be able to pick up a few. As with the pick a card, you can just throw a red card in and potentially get some experience.
Yep, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So small advantage there for GBM. And we are seeing a lane swap occur right now. Chaser will be starting on the red buff, so this Janna harassment not really going to do a whole lot. As Maokai there on the side, you can see, just trying to zone this Janna out. Meanwhile, freezes will be accomplished for both teams via the AD carry.
What about this pathing, though? Because what we've seen develop in these lane swap situations is that people love to start on the big buff on the weak side, just because it's so hard for the support to contest it. Feels like if you start on the Raptors and then go to red buff, that's too much of an overextension. You can see on the minimap, though, Tucson actually started on the strong side of the map.
Yep, and that means he can actually start Gromp and then go for the blue buff afterwards. So it's a little bit of a difference. We do see Expression here coming in. And IM, now they picked for a strong laning phase here. They wanted the Gnar into the Maokai. They wanted the Kog'Maw into the Sivir. So this is a pretty preferable situation for Jinair right now. Plus you have kill pressure onto Victor with TF and Alistar on the roam. So definitely a much better situation for Jinair early.
Remember, IM invaded for vision and then opted into a lane swap and not getting that Gnar versus Maokai matchup that only gets better for Maokai. The early lane invade is very, very good for Gnar. After a single item, especially if Gnar can't get a very fast Hex Drinker. Remember, we saw the infamous solo kill when we last cast on Saturday between these lineups, which never see Maokai solo killing a Gnar, but Trace was on the unfortunate end of the solo kill. He'll remember how this matchup goes, given how much he struggled in it.
Yeah.
Against KT.
Well, here we go. Looks like Sport's in the top lane, at least for the moment. And we didn't even mention, but Chaser, probably the most feared Nidalee player in Korea. He has such a huge effect on that champion, and it's one of those rare junglers where if you do get a lot of gold, you can do a lot of damage and help carry the team in the late game.
It's a return to Chaser and Nidalee, because in that series against KT, wasn't banned against him in game one, didn't opt for it. And kind of one of the things I was thinking about as you were saying, okay, meta's moving away from Jinair. The one thing we've talked about in previous patches is that the poke is very certainly in the meta. It's just a weird kind of anachronism where you have good poke champion players, you have people with extended champion pools, specifically GBM, who feels like he can play everything, but it still feels like something is missing to really bring the cohesion of this Jinair lineup in a meta that, at least on one level, should at least support them being a relevant player.
Yeah, it's just, again, I think it's their emphasis on where they put the gold, because while it is a poke meta, a lot of that poke these days has to come out of mid and to a certain degree top laners, and when you have a team that really emphasizes 80 carries like Jin Air does, sure you have a Corki and a Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw probably the most relevant champion for poke, considering that throughout all stages of the game, considering you're dealing with a narrow timing window. I mean, the other thing that we talk about with Jin Air too is that they can play some very good League of Legends, but then they'll make a mistake in the ultra late game and just lose.
I mean, I guess I come back to the fact that, you know, you have to say it's their AD carry that they put priority on just because we have the stats. We know that both Trace and GBM don't pick up much gold or do much damage, specifically output much damage. They have very low percentage of team damage numbers. But surely the carry's Chaser, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. Which is why I think that Nidalee ban is actually
needed, necessary. That's the strategic, that's the only real, true jungle carry. Of course, you can get 6-7 kills on the likes of Evelyn, as we've seen Wisdom do for Ku and carry a game. But Nidalee is the true de jour jungle carry.
Well, you also just don't even need those kills, right?
Sure,
it
only gets better.
Yeah, you can farm with Nidalee and you still get items and you still can deal damage. So, yes, I think that is probably a more necessary ban than you might think against Jin Air.
Was it a mistake not taking the Maokai in the first round, do you think? Do you think Gragas was really the priority jungler? Now, Tucson is an excellent Gragas. It just feels like the only champion that's relevant, that has a decent laning phase, that can get on the backline, that can actually shut down these Kog'Maws. Kog'Maw has the highest win rate by far of any champion picked over 10 times in Champions at 74%. Feels like the only way to really get on top of him is this Maokai, and Jin Air could even pair it with the Nidalee that's given them so much success.
Well, they also have the TF too once that Zhonya's comes through, so Jin Air really does have a lot of opportunities to shut down Incredible Miracle's opposition. Pilot there with a quick spell shield onto the Tornado, so...
Is Pilot a carry? Is Captain Jack a carry? These are questions that I don't really know the answer to. And one of them needs to loom as a carry, otherwise, again, it's a team that doesn't really have a threat outside of the jungle.
Yeah, Jin Air is in a very weird place right now. I mean, we mentioned this before, but when I look at this team, I'm like, wow, all these players are individually good, but they just don't work together very well.
I know the off-season move you're hoping for. GBM to Najin.
I think that'd be a great move for Najin.
So that would be Duke, GBM, and OQ as your threats.
I mean, honestly, moving Goong to Jin Air is probably good too. Goong is on the top of the list in terms of kills, or near the top overall this season. So it's been a weird season for Jin Air because they definitely have some very good pieces, but they don't play together in a fashion that is going to actually win them a lot of games.
All right, so let's say no roster moves. I think they just need to have one thing. Have Doa come in, get them to embrace the Bloodthirsty. Because they're just not. They don't pick up kills. Kill distribution's not lopsided. It's so even. It's so tassel. It's so passive, and they just really need that selfish damage threat.
Right. And we thought maybe that would be Kuzan, but Kuzan's still very raw as a rookie player. So.
It may develop to that, but right now, certainly not the immediate answer.
Well, so far they're doing A-OK. They've actually farmed themselves to a pretty nice lead here. Sivir
going for a big walk.
Yeah, Sivir getting a little bit of a CS advantage already, and here comes GBM. He's just going to walk into the top side, not even bothering to use his ult. But great warding early from Jin Air. They're trying to control this top side. They want to shut Expression down. So Trace actually be doing some proxy farming, and IM wants to respond with that dragon. Now this is going to be Seed Scuttle Crab over to this Jin Air roster, but they don't. I think they're just going to give it up.
They don't have the members on that side of the map really to impact it. So it's going to be an unanswered dragon coming through for IM. Remember, IM tried to get the lanes they wanted, force Gnar into a lane swap. Now, the moment that they swap back, he's getting punished. They're trying to build up Trace to really be in the position to body this Gnar and ensure they don't have a lopsided teleport battle later in the game.
Indeed. Well, GBM still has both those TPs up. Expression now level 6, but with very little rage.
I mean, probably a lot of rage, but no Narvar, for sure.
No Narvar, indeed. So not much here so far besides Jin Air just building up a gold advantage through their farming. And Chaser be handing over that blue buff shortly. Frozen already with his, just collected alongside that dragon. But Jin Air with deep wards on both sides of the map right now. Vision game definitely in favor of the Green Wings, but it's time. They need to make a move right now. They have a ton of kill pressure with this lineup. They need to make use of it early on.
We're always waiting for that first big Twisted Fate Destiny to work out just how this Twisted Fate will impact the game. You know, when they get snowballing with the extra gold in your passive, you can certainly take over games. Of course, in the late game, we're going to have so much split push threat. I mean, of course, the Destiny's on a shorter cooldown than once before. We will see CDR come through with the CDR boots, but with the teleport, so many flexible options. And I guess one small question to ask you is that I can understand the teleport against the likes of Ezreal. Against the Victor, I still see some of the merit, because I remember how many games we've seen recently where specifically Faker picks up that enchant onto the E, clears waves, then always first to roam. You wouldn't think that would be relevant with Twisted Fate, but I guess just with his low base stats, now you can't just go for, say, an ultimate, chunk him out, and try and take down that turret early. Is it still the right choice against the Victor?
Well, the question becomes, too, do you need that Ghost to avoid some of Victor's damage in team fights, get away from the Death Ray, get away from the Chaos Storm? Just puts a premium on the TF positioning. If he can pull it off, then it'll look great, but it's one fewer tool. Here comes the dive, and here we go. There's the gold card coming in Expression in that Mega Gnar form, but there's just so much damage now that that Sheen has been completed for GBM, and he's right back into the mid lane.
Has to teleport to the defensive turret. There's 3 members have rotated to mid. Still has very strong wave here. Sweet's coming around as well.
They want to make this play. TP coming in from Trace. They can follow this up. Ignar low. There's the knock-up right as Trace comes through. Gravity Field will get the stun. Ignar has to flash, and there is a gold card, and the wild card's not going to take Ignar out. But a great defensive move onto the turret there from Jin Air, and now they're just going to back off.
60-odd health Janna lives on. It was a nice play, but teleport is expended, and teleport is available for Expression. Suddenly, remember, that was teleport onto a ward, so that's a 5-minute cooldown for Expression to play around.
Yeah, Ignar played that extremely well, by the way. He got the immediate knock-up as soon as the port came through from the Howling Gale, so it was a great disengage from Ignar. Gravity Field going down to make sure that Trace could not make a play.
Ignar, in general, has been a revelation this season for IM. We mentioned he's one of the 2 players that's played every series. In general, just never really been, you know, one of the problems when they were losing, and has put in some excellent individual plays on the likes of Alistair.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, that's why we see so many support bans targeted at IM, because he is a very real threat. So GBM's going to start farming up the jungle right now, moving towards that Lich Bane so he can power up those ganks. Destiny will be off cooldown shortly, and will that result in another play? Jin Air doing a nice job with that gold lead. They got Trace the kill in the top side. That will be very helpful as he itemizes to prevent him from being pushed out of lane by this Gnar.
Honestly, he hasn't really itemized that way, Monte Cristo. He's gone for the Righteous Glory, which helps in the laning matchup, but it's certainly not a Glacial Shroud or True Armor, maybe the Frozen Heart. That's a team fight item. You know, with the Nidalee, especially with the Nidalee farming up a Storm, 9 CS ahead of Gragas, they're looking for the flexibility to fight for this second dragon.
Yes, they are. So can they pull it off? Frozen starting to get some decent damage here down the turret. Now Frozen gets tagged by a spear, and that is going to be cleansed. 2 Sins there. Okay. Chaos Storm is popped. That's just going to chase Chaser away. Chaser going to pounce his way and heal up to safety, but that is it's a nice cooldown. Eliminated right there. Both summoners from Frozen expended to get himself out of that situation.
So which of those summoner expenditures, the teleport from Trace or both the defensive summoners from Frozen, will be more important in a minute's time?
And here comes Pilot. 2 Sin is looking for an aggressive play, and that's not going to work out, but a nice attempt there onto the red buff. They did have that TP, of course, but that will be matched by the Destiny from Twisted Fate. So Expression doesn't quite have that same freedom that he might normally have if he had a teleport advantage. And Trace's TP not looking like it's going to be up in time for the second dragon. So Jin Air is going to have to make some tough decisions about where they want to go.
No big item time is completed by either mid lane, of course. You very much need those 2 Hex Core upgrades to be relevant, both in terms of the roam and the flexibility of having the movement speed for the Q augment and just the wave clear from the E augment. GBM cannot quite get the Lich Bane, of course, spending 1,500 gold-ish on the boots just to be a global pressure. It's got them 1 kill so far, but it's only the single Destiny use in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, that is true. And the other thing we haven't even mentioned is that, close, is that with the TP, TF actually opens up some very interesting flank attacks just by using teleport like a top laner would to get into combat. TF is such an interesting champion, like you were saying, because his flexibility is fascinating.
Is it going to be the Lich Bane rush? Is it going to be the Zhonya's rush for teamfight? You get a lot of information from the summoners and the item choices, and just, you know, strategic decision-making and items for an AP champion. That's what, of course, Riot was going for with the Near Large Rod being lower price on this patch, and at 1250 gold, I believe. Just with the flexibility of AP items churning around, Twisted Fate always had it. It's why he's one of the most unique champions to watch, is that he's got so many different playstyles that are viable.
Indeed he does. Well, we are going to see Janair start to set up right here. They knocked down the top side turret in the interim. It's a very nice win there, actually, for Maokai, considering that is not normally the way we see this matchup play out. Typically, it's the Gnar chipping away very methodically. The bottom side, Pilot actually taking a lot of damage as the Dragon is live. That could mean a Dragon for Incredible Miracle.
Worth noting that at no point was the Maokai on an island. He was always in a situation where Chaser was really pathing around him to ensure that this was the reality, and then was ganked for the kill, so of course the death would have impacted things. Jinna has bought time for Tracer's teleport to come up, so credit to them. The 5-minute timer we talked about, can Expression take advantage of the 5-minute teleport timer? The answer, squarely, is no.
Yep. That is true, and now just some vision control from Incredible Miracle. Trace wants to make a play here. Now Gnar is trying to freeze the lane close to the tier 2, but this can backfire because it gives your opponents a lot of time to actually play the map and just kind of line up in some other lanes to take down tier 1s. However, Trace will very confidently strut into the top side. Doesn't have that same ward coverage that he did earlier.
Speaking of ward coverage, 2 pinks around the Dragon area. Even though Expression is just in that tired stage and there was a certain window where Jinna could look to try and force some pressure around Dragon, they just haven't prepped the waves or the vision to realistically do so.
They haven't. So it looks like everybody just falling back right now. Nothing. I'm surprised no one really wants to make this play right here. They're going to make a play on topside instead. There's Expression, and the same gank happening again. Gold card will hit him after the bounce. There's the wild cards coming through, and that will be a kill for GBM as he locks in another card. And Expression targeted very heavily this game, and Janair says, we're just going to give up the Dragons for the gold right now. They get kills, they extend their gold lead, they get a tier 2 turret, and that puts them up by about another 1,000. And that comes at the price of 2. Is anybody going to stop this? Hello, I am.
Gragas is the first one to start recalling.
Hello?
Victor does as well, but they're going to get a lot of damage. It's probably going to be the turret.
Well, this is confusing. You can't leave a Twisted Fate with a Sheen in a lane like that, and so they have an exposed inhibitor now at 17 minutes.
You can reason as you like about, making the immediate gold versus delayed Dragon choices, establish a win condition. That all goes out the window when you take an inhibitor turret at 18 minutes. That must be the fastest inhibitor turret we've seen champions this season.
It's definitely close, I can say that. And the big threat here, when we talk about split pushing, why isn't split pushing good right now? Because it's so hard in a 1v1 scenario to take out that inhibitor turret. With that down, Twisted Fate is basically going to just have a perpetual backdoor onto your tower, and once he starts stacking AP and that Lich Bane gets more and more and more efficient, he has TP. He can just TP to a ward at any time, walk up and kill the inhibitor. This is a disaster for Incredible Miracle.
And so let's talk about where this inhibitor turret is down. It's down in the top lane. So what does that mean? Enjoy your 2 dragons while you have them, IM, because getting any more is going to be impossible. You're going to have to really rotate members. Jinna can send 2 members top, the incredible damage and double CC combo. Speaking of CC, GBM needs to make some very fast-rated movements. They're going to lose the mid-turret, but they can send 2 members top, and through the flexibility of Destiny and 2 summoner teleports, IM just don't have the resources to deal with them.
No, I mean, basically, if Jin Air, like you're saying, if they play this out properly, it's almost impossible for them to lose. Well, Chaser going to get knocked around, actually has to flash out of the Chaos Storm. Sweet there, pops the ultimate. He will live through this more than likely as he gets a little bit of a boost there. Sivir moving up with that on the HUD. More spears firing from the backside, but guess where GBM is? He's in the top side, used that Destiny. Expression is dead to rights, twisted advance. GBM locks in the gold card, one last auto. Takes out Expression for the third time. Expression right there on your screen. He's suffering in the top side right now, heavily targeted, but you have to expect that. You see a TF Maokai in Italy, you know your life is going to be hell. Meanwhile, TP from Trace is going to arrive at the backside. TP from GBM actually coming through too. And now everybody on IM have to disengage, but there's so much crowd control. That is going to be the end of Tucson in that 5v4. Ignar being hunted right now. Clever little tornado there, and that will cause the Javelin toss to just barely miss.
Disengage and re-engage from Jin Air is squarely on point. This is the Jin Air that in my mind fits the meta, and at least they're trying something different. Just the adaptation of the Summoner has opened up so much pressure for Jin Air.
Yeah, it's a great composition for sure, and this is the first time, as I said, in Korea we've seen the teleport TF this year, but something that, as I said, EDG certainly has been playing around with in China. And if you think this is scary, teleport TF against low wave clear mid laners is even scarier because basically you have no way of controlling the Twisted Fate.
And the obvious answer to it is to try to dive the TF, but then of course you just teleport back to lane. There's timings where that works, there's timings where it doesn't. Twisted Fate, just with the fact that he's a lane-losing champion in general, he does have that flexibility to say, whatever, I'm going to take the teleport, and more often than not, this will mean that my turret will stay up longer, and the plays you can make, we've already seen them in 20 minutes here. They're just things that other champions are not able to do.
GBM is going to come up with a very large gold lead too, having most of the kills on the team, and his passive, I see a 7,000 gold lead here for Jin Air, and they've got total control over the pace of this game with that inhibitor down. So this next dragon looks like it will be very unlikely for Incredible Miracle. And Jin Air, they made choices this game. There's the Destiny, he's going in. Where is he? Oh, hello. No one's in the mid-tier 2 turret to take this out. Everyone on the bottom side. Very nice map play from Jin Air.
Yeah, a lot of damage. Will they be able to take it down? We can't see the tower health, but it has to be low. Even with the shield goes down. Jin Air can just walk away. They've got the objective. No need to fight.
I love the way Jin Air is playing this game, Papa Smithy. They gave up the dragons intentionally, shut down the main tank on Incredible Miracle, and just took the tower gold. And now you can get in a position. I wish more teams would do this. Give up an early dragon or two, play for the gold lead, come back at Dragon 3 and fight it with a massive item advantage. Take the game that way.
Let's temper our excitement at Jin Air in terms of overall optimism about this team as, I could say, a playoff threat. Remember, this is an extension of a comp they were already very good at, and few teams would swap quite as disproportionately poorly at top lane. Losing your inhibitor type, that was definitely something that we will not see with any regularity.
Yes, no, that was, and also even that tier 2 turret, their lane assignments have been very poor this game, no doubt.
Jin Air so fast to swap trinkets. We actually saw earlier Chaser he started the game with a warding totem, switched it to a sweeper to help with gank pressure, instantly into the upgraded warding totem. 4 warding totems, well no, do you know why there's no 4 warding totems? Because that's the Captain Jack thing. Pilot sticks with the scrying orb, and that'll serve him just fine.
That's true, but again, as you're mentioning, Jin Air, that team that likes to upgrade 3 or more early warding totems, and they basically say, here's how we want to play the game. We want to kite. We don't need to deny you any information because we're just going to stand at the objective. It doesn't matter if you see us, and we will see all your flanks coming in, and we will play the kite game.
But it goes further than that. They've got 2 teleports, 1 teleport home guard, very soon to be 2 teleport home guard. Now wards and smart spots is even more important because with that extra teleport from GBM, even more flank threat when you just have complete information of the whole map.
Yeah, and it's just impossible to sweep all those wards out that you are creating with the Sight Stone and then 3 or more warding totems. You see right here, Chaser is up 3,000 gold on Tucson. Look at his farm difference.
106 to 64. I am getting the dragon low.
And here we go, Alistar engaged. There's the Sivir ult popped already. Righteous Glory used. It will be coming in from the flank. That is the Gnar looking for an opportunity. His rage is almost filled. They're going to go on to Tucson. They're trying to attack the flank right now. Pilot and Chaser are stuck in the pit, though. Tucson getting very low. GBM wants a gold card target. He's not going to get it. And Dragon will reset back in the pit. Ignar gets in from behind, and he's going to pop the members of Jin Air back in with the Monsoon, but GBM finds him on the outside. 1-for-1 trade, support for support. Going down so far. Expression gets an ult, but it's only onto the Maokai. That is not who you want. GBM is out of mana. He's going to have to Zhonya's through the Hourglass, and this is going to be IM actually winning this fight. Jin Air taking a lot of dragon damage inside the pit. They were split up and just poked to death by Incredible Miracle. Very poorly fought.
To say they were split up, Monte Cristo, is an amazing underestimation. Pilot sat in the back of the Dragon Pit for 25 seconds, auto-attacking nothing. He was zoned the whole fight. Finally, Chaser could turn into the Cougar form and hop over. But this whole team fight, Pilot did precisely nothing the moment he kited down towards the Dragon.
Yeah, they had a split call here. They didn't know what they want to do. 3 members go in, 2 members.
Pilot in the back line, the 2 of them and Chaser just trying to work out, is there a re-engage option? Sweet's ultimate runs out. Tracer's ultimate, remember the duration is finite. It runs out. Pilot is still doing nothing, just throwing out the Q. He's not able to do anything, doesn't have flash or isn't willing to use it. They eventually re-engage here as Expression. 1 man onto the Maokai, but it's not because Pilot could not contribute anything, and Frozen was very smart in holding his cooldown.
Yes, he was. Well, very questionable team fight from Jin Air. And they have to get together. I mean, if they want to kite, they need to be together on these calls. GBM going to come in. Tornado not going to knock him up as the Destiny comes through. And Ignar will fall to Pilot's Boomerang Blade. A lot used, but they are just going to push into the top side right now. Another thing, Jin Air absolutely could have just been pushing down that top lane inhibitor during that time, too. They committed to that fight, then misplayed it.
Teleports weren't up on Trace and GBM. That's why they didn't go for it. Teleport for Trace was about 40 seconds away as we started that fight. It was very awkward in general, but I mean, the map rotation macro calls from Jin Air have been wonderful, but that team fight obviously lacked clear calling because the 2 threats, specifically Chaser and Pilot, just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
If someone had just called Pilot and said, flash over the back of the pit, re-engage with the tank line, things would have gone very differently.
You're absolutely right. He could have flashed over because Trace and the rest of Jin Air fell down into that tri-brush, so it would have been quite easy.
Chaser was able to hop over. The flash was available, but not used by Pilot, so you have to assume that's just poor shot calling overall because the map movement, we've seen very smart moves, and they now have 6 turrets to 1. They're playing the turret game well. Maybe it's time to stick with that and just opt out of these team fights.
Yeah, opt into the inhibitor. Easy way to win the game.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. If I could just opt into an inhibitor, I'd win most of my games.
Hey, well, Jin Air, they can do that. They have that power here.
Is this going to be one of those series where there's a naked inhibitor and no one tries to take it down for 25 minutes?
We really hope not, obviously. We really hope not.
Because, I mean, there is a win condition open for IM. 3 dragons down by about 25 minutes, so we're talking about 36, 37, 38 minutes for the 5th dragon. Jin Air have already shown their team fight shot calling shaky. They need to establish some sort of win condition. Taking down this top lane inhibitor, that means it's very, very difficult to opt into fights around dragons, what we talked about earlier. Still haven't seen the natural extension of taking that objective.
Well, here we go. TP coming in. They want to do a Baron right now. Risky call from Jin Air.
No
Will they turn on
Expression.
This? Yep, no TP on Expression. He's in the bottom side right now, so they're burning it down. Trace tanking out most of the damage right now. Not too much damage dealt from the Baron. Tucson will be knocked up on the outside, and that's a Smite and Secure. IM not able to fight and not willing to commit to that because they didn't have their top laner. So again, Jin Air playing with their mobility on the map, and IM making further poor decisions.
I mean, the map movement, that's been Jin Air's purview, and it was the map lane rotation or lane assignment that we talked about for Jin Air. That was the big problem for IM. Why was Expression on the diametrically opposite side of the map with no teleport? The damage is still very real from Jin Air. They even have damage coming out from the jungler. Maokai has relevant damage with the Twisted Advance onto a big neutral like the Baron. Effectively free Baron through to Jin Air.
Free Baron, free inhibitor turrets, tons of free objectives for Jin Air this game. Just
very charitable.
Yeah, very charitable I am. It's very nice of you. I'm sure Jin Air appreciates it as they look to secure some sort of playoff seed and keep their hopes for the season and keep their hopes for the World Championship alive. Jin Air was in the playoffs last season. They do have, some decent circuit points. They ended in 4th place.
Something we didn't mention is that Chaser chose the stacking build for the Jungle Diddley. About 21 minutes was his Rod of Ages timing, so about 31 minutes. It's a very late Rod of Ages by top lane standards, but it will allow him to scrap a bit more in the Cougar range form. So that could be very useful for him. Didn't opt for the tier, so it's a different type of stacking from the Nidalee. It feels like they so naturally go through those tier stacks in a non-mana fashion that tier's always the go, but with that extra health, just that much more relevant in the front line.
Well, too, the AP buffs on the patch
That's
to
fair.
Rod of Ages makes it a more attractive item in terms of damage output.
Didn't even consider that. Good point. 5.13 Rod of Ages, definitely shifting the power towards ability power overall.
So here we go. GBM, Baron buff, TF split push on the bottom side.
No teleport still.
No teleport still. He does have that Destiny, but he can't actually get to his team very quickly. Remember, he doesn't have Ghost, so split pushing cross-map on TF like this is more dangerous because you can't get into range for your ultimate quite as fast.
Doesn't feel like IM have any true initiation, though. We're talking about some sort of wombo between Gragas and Na, who often have more negative synergy than positive synergy, and without especially having that summoner teleport to answer the the plethora of options they have in terms of split pushing to Jin Air, they're just going to inevitably lose these free objectives that they've been donating most of this game.
And with that dragon up in 10 seconds, Jin Air has that on lockdown. They're waiting in the enemy jungle right now, seeing if they can maybe get a pick. Tucson has to walk very far forward to actually get some wards down into the river, but I don't know if there's any way that IM can really contest this. They're not even going to try.
This is finally the reward for all the map pressure that was exerted specifically early onto Expression, who's been so well held by Jin Air's map rotations. The immediate goal to answer the stacking mechanic, if you finally get to this point where Tucson comes towards the dragon, only has one defensive ward anywhere near the buff, you will eventually monopolize control and remove the threat of the 5th dragon, which honestly is the only thing really keeping IM with any level of optimism in this game.
That's right. So, will we see this inhibitor eventually go down? It has been naked for about 13 minutes right now. They've tried to...
Have you no shame, inhibitor?
Have you no shame? Inhibitor Strumpet, strutting around naked.
Wanton. Wanton. To be fair to Jin Air, though, these guys are gentlemen. They don't visit the naked inhibitor. They stay well away.
Go for the naked dragon instead.
You know how I knew they were gentlemen? It's the bow tie. Let's be real.
It's the GBM bow tie coming through.
He's just not visiting the naked inhibitor. It's been there a long time, Monty. It's advertising. We've already called it wanton, but all on its own. I appreciate that because it gave them that window to work towards the dragons, but unfortunately, losing all your outer turrets, that's not even a realistic win condition now. So Jin Air really feel like they need to pull the finger out and actually just force something. But the last time they forced, they lost a big team fight.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they need to force. I think, again, they can just very comfortably split push in this game. But GBM has not really been in the top side at all. We're going to see Chaser. He's got a big buy coming through. Zhonya's Hourglass will be the pickup. So double Zhonya's now on the side of the Jin Air Green Wings.
If there's ever any confusion about who the true carry of this Jin Air lineup, it's the Rod of Ages, Zhonya's Hourglass jungler. I'm the carry, guys.
Too true.
Just give me time.
Just give me time. I will split push. I will burst them down. I will land my spears.
This needs to be a little bit less of a one-man army, does this Jin Air lineup, but maybe there's another week or an off-season to really boost that possibility.
Here we go. Jin Air looking at this bottom side once again. GBM apparently doesn't want to actually split push into the top where he could quickly dispose of that inhibitor with his massive amount of AP coupled with his Lich Bane.
15 minutes with no close on this inhibitor. Still no one going anywhere near it.
And this is, we look at this game and we can say, wow, Jin Air really did a good job of giving IM the runaround, getting all these towers, getting this gold lead, but where is the closure? Because this is where Jin Air starts to take their foot off the pedal usually, give their opponents an opportunity to get to 6 items, and then crush them in a team fight.
And we've seen this, I believe it was against CJ. Finally we see some initiation, but it's from IM, and popped is the Siva. Enough ability power onto the likes of a Victor, and this can happen.
So dangerous to be in that situation because that Gragas Victor actually does have a lot of synergy because of the burst coming in. Violet just had no chance right there whatsoever.
You could be Captain Jack with the spell shield mechanics and you were still dead that time.
Yeah, 100%. So, even though the wards were there for Jin Air and Violet felt comfortable coming up, he did not appreciate the Gragas ultimate threat that would get him into range. Now IM, they want to push forward right now. 40 seconds until the next Baron.
I'm getting worried. I think Panic Station's not necessarily required from Jin Air, but the fact that this inhibitor, without a turret, they haven't rotated around it. How could they be so smart with their lane rotations and assignments earlier and then just fail so spectacularly?
The Jin Air
mantra.
The Jin Air conundrum. So looking for another Baron quite possibly. Waves are pushed very heavily in favor of Jin Air. Looks like Gnar on the bottom side, but with teleport.
Yep.
This time around.
This time the strategic hole has been closed by M, so credit to them for that. The item timings, honestly, the Victor in particular is very fearsome in terms of items. Jin Air really need to guarantee this Baron with a pick, or otherwise, in a game where Inhibitor fell at 18 minutes, there's the potential for a 50-50 fight 20 minutes later.
Yeah, really don't want that. Gnar actually popped his talisman during that ward clear. So that is a tool that will not be available to IM for a little while. GBM may be answering the push here onto the bottom side. 2 TPs available for the Jin Air Green Wings right now.
Had to back away when Pilot was popped. Now they can go back to the split push play. Make sure that someone is paying if we do see a Baron contest. And honestly, if at minimum Jin Air can't force, say, an inhibitor swap for a Baron contest, they've made a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. GBM could be in the top side right now, pushing that wave forward. He has the vision to make sure that he's not going to be isolated while the rest of his team does Baron. They can actually successfully threaten both objectives at the same time right now, but for some reason, GBM is still in that bottom lane.
Still a gentleman, forever the gentleman. No backdooring allowed, Monte Cristo. You can't go to the top lane. You have to work your way slowly. Take out all those. Didn't you know that they changed 5.13? You got to take all the outer inhibitor turrets out before you can actually push forward.
I see. That was a.
It was a hidden note.
It wasn't actually a documented change.
No, undocumented.
Someone told Jin Air though, so they're on top of it.
Chivalrous to the end. I'm getting sad now, Monte Cristo.
I don't know why Maokai is in the bottom side either.
Honestly, send both of them to one lane, the top lane, if you want to go for this. But why are they both on the bottom side of the map? It beggars belief.
I don't know what they're doing. This is how you get no objectives in a game.
I don't think this game really deserves any more strategic talks. Let's talk about something else. How's life, Monty?
Till somebody actually does something here.
I mean, I am. They're doing fine.
Yep.
But don't know what Jin Air are doing. The cricket's not going so well, but Australia did beat England in the second Ashes test.
I don't know what that means.
It's 1-1, you understand that. It's equal at the moment.
I see.
Australia are the previous champions.
How are your bowlers?
They bowl well. The batters have been thwacking the ball and running between the wickets.
Ah, yes, the wickets.
Yes, the wickets. The game ends at stumps on day 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, well, Dragon is up, and this is good. What is happening right now? Looks like, is there actually a Baron being taken? No, it was an absolutely free Dragon.
So back to cricket talk.
I don't even know what's happening in this game.
I don't think Jin Air do either, because they're certainly not playing it.
Okay, TP, up to the Baron. Jin Air decides to do Baron right now. They see Victor at the bottom side jungle, so Jin Air should be able to get this one if they don't get it. Smite stolen by Tucson. GBM there as well, 2 TPs used. They are going to secure the Baron, and will they turn afterwards? Sweet's already with his ultimate pop, and they are going to have to disengage. Expression coming in. Pilot wants to get some damage down. They're trying to kite back into the choke point right now. Chaser going to be over the wall. Sweet will lose his life in exchange for the Baron. Frozen there late. Does not have a chance to get his ultimate or his damage down, but that was 2 TPs used by the Jin Air Green Wings to secure that objective.
They still do have the ultimate. The Destiny is available. They really prepped the waves well. Finally, maybe 20 minutes later than they should have. So they had to back away IM. They couldn't chase further, only picked up the 1 kill, only denying the 1 Baron, and unfortunately not from one of the split pushes. So okay, 3 minutes of huge power for a split push team. Lane assignments. Where do they need to go to win this game, Monte Cristo? What are the lane assignments that would be optimal? Because it feels like we've been talking about them, we've been shaking our heads. GBM's back in the bot lane, so does that already throw it out the window? Or can we finally have Maokai, now with Baron buff minions, go to the top lane?
I just don't agree with the split from the Twisted Fate here.
He's been banned from the top side, let's be real. He hasn't seen a top side lane since, what, his ganks earlier in the game?
Yeah, what I would do is I would put TF top and I would put 4 mid, so you actually cover the ultimate. If you split in the side lanes right now, you're still running that risk that GBM cannot get there in time for a team fight should Jin Air be engaged on.
He needs to be instantly in the back line on top of the Kog'Maw. He is not in range of that till he's really walking towards the mid lane.
Yeah, well, Sweet the one without the Baron buff right now. There is no minion pressure in the mid lane. Trace is here in the top side. Everyone else from Jin Air, they want to go after this inhibitor.
Maybe with the opposite lane assignments than we expected, but it's time to take down this inhibitor. They took it down at 18 minutes, the inhibitor turret. 22 minutes later, haven't found a way to pick it up despite having a Baron subsequently. Now the second Baron. At minimum, this inhibitor must fall.
I feel like I'm going crazy, Papa Smithy.
Well, we were talking about cricket for a good 3 minutes there, so as an American, you probably have.
All right, well, the inhibitor has been opened up on the bottom side of the map right now, so Baron minions. There's that Lichbane TF slowly doing work here. Trying to deal with Expression. Expression does block a pick a card with his Banshee's Veil. Finally, Jin Air may get this in. Okay, Victor on the bottom side. That is a kill pressure threat onto GBM. He could 100-0 him if GBM misplays it.
Frozen walking quickly. Use the Q. Lane assignments aren't ideal. No teleport from Expression, so smart of him to be around the other members and has some decent wave clear. But at minimum, yeah, this is going to be.
I got excited.
One more. There we go.
Cannon minion breaks the deadlock.
The 23-minute stalemate after taking down the inhibitor.
There's a huge minion wave in the mid lane too, but that will be quickly cleaned up by Chaser, who recalls back to base. GBM still needs to get out of dodge here. Can't really 1v1 with the rest of his team back at base trying to get these minion waves.
So the thing to understand, if you're, say, Jin Air's next opponent's watching the tape, is that this exact strategy 20 minutes ago would have been super, super effective. They would have got much more, because remember, even if Expression had teleport, he was the one who was far behind. He had no items 20 minutes ago. Casually has farmed up the likes of a Randuin's and Banshee Veil since they were last in this situation with a naked inhibitor and the Baron buff riding down on Jin Air. The pick on Pilot has bought them so much time that now Expression's relevant, but here comes the potential pick.
And GBM coming in with that gate. Tucson in the front lines has a very bad ultimate. Is he going to go down? Looks like no, the disengage coming through, and that'll be enough to keep them alive at the moment. Only this one turret left. Jin Air starts to go to the bottom side, Jin Air.
Oh, they got to siege down this turret, Monte Cristo. That's the rule, apparently.
This is unbelievable. Well, I guess we're going to face tank the turret and take out the last inhib turret. GBM getting low, gets tagged, gets slowed, 50% HP.
Expression still exhausted, didn't build up any rage despite chunking out GBM, and yeah, no objectives. No objectives allowed. Okay, so we were talking about cricket. Is the next step silence? Is it a minute's silence for the Jin Air fans?
I am just struck by disbelief. This game should have been over 15 minutes ago. But Jin Air has spent so much time diddling around the map that IM is now in a position where they can win one team fight and actually win this game in spite of this insane goal deficit that they have.
I can tell how disappointed you are by your use of the word diddling. That's not a Monte Cristoism right there. Sonsa casually found up a lot of items. 30 seconds till the 5th dragon. It's insane that we're talking about 5th dragon pressure from a team that has had a 25-minute naked inhibitor. And inhibitor's down, the super minions are pushing into top. This is where IM's sometimes poor strategic decisions might really be put to the sword by Jin Air.
I'll see if Jin Air can actually team fight well, unlike the last time they had an attempt at this dragon. Right now, GBM's on the flank. He's looking for a TP. He's going to TP up. Here comes Epic backdoor. He's going to go for the win right now. Expression has to TP back. But remember, GBM can just gate right back into this one. It's going to be a 50-50. And Chaser with a steal saves Jin Air's bacon in a lot of ways. GBM now going to be coming back with the gate into the team fight. Double kill for Chaser, triple kill for Chaser, and here we go. That is going to be a Maokai kill onto the Kog'Maw. Chaser running away from that Icathian surprise. Wow, Jin Air really playing with fire right there. That was bold and partially crazy to make that play.
But was it that crazy when, of course, Twisted Fate has two globals, and in this case, both of them were semi-global enough to be relevant in the fight? They ran Expression around. They finally used what they had tried to cultivate 25 minutes previously. And okay, it's delayed, but Jin Air finally, with their massive early advantage, parlay that into a win.
Here we go. Dex is going to go down. Jin Air wins game 1 in nearly 45 minutes. Some very interesting map play that game.
Interesting?
Yeah. Well, it was half brilliant, right? Because Jin Air started playing the turret game extremely well.
But what's the other side of the half brilliance, Monte Cristo?
Half crazy. Jin Air, crazy like a fox.
Yep, and formerly Real Foxy, now Chaser. That's another great performance on Lily. There's a reason this champion must be banned. We're looking at damage dealt to champions. It isn't any surprise. Chaser's right up the top.
Yeah, Chaser right at the top. He was about, what, 5K ahead of the enemy jungler in this game. Tucson, no, he was 7,000 gold ahead of Tucson.
Can we visually just, what's 7,000 gold? That's a Trinity Force and an IE, almost both of them?
That's crazy. Well, it's been a weird one. Jin Air does take the win. Good